And we're finally on. Took a while to spin around there, but we're on. And it's Every Point's a Winner. Welcome. My name's Zach Sal Phillips. I'll just hit record here, make sure we're getting an audio version of this, just in case we have audio issues. Welcome to Every Point's a Winner, and where you'll see the famous blue and white colours spinning around. Canterbury still undefeated at this stage. They had their bye, but on Thursday we had the Dolphins versus Panthers. The formster, Mr. Peter Connors, tipped Panthers, only to have egg running down his face. However, Dolphins just proved too good for the Panthers. Still trying to find themselves going for that fifth premiership, and they're really battling. Many people are saying they'll be barely there to make the top eight, and they really have to win probably at least 9 to 10 of their last 14 games. So anyway, as it was on Thursday, looking at the highlights, Tabuai Fado went over. The Hammer went over twice, 3 times in fact. Lemuelu went over. Jake Abrella was the one that snuck under my guard. I usually have him in there for the ATTS, the anytime try scorer. And it was really never looking like a chance that Penrith would win that game. And at halftime, it was already 18-6. So they're hanging in there by a thread, Penrith. Just looking at the conversions, he's a fantastic goal kicker. I used to think Holmes was one of the best from St George, but Jermaine Osako is a faultless goal kicker. So he's probably kicking at a very high percentage at the moment. And just looking at some of the key stats here, the possession, surprisingly, Penrith had a little bit more possession at 54%. And then we had all runs, 234 from Penrith. The kicks pretty much similar, a little bit more kicking game, of course, because Cleary was on there for Penrith. Kicking meters, a lot better kicking game there from the Dolphins, about 100 more kicking meters. Tackles made, 390, surprisingly, for the Dolphins. They really had to buckle down there a couple of times, and only 370 for Penrith. Missed tackles, here's the stat, 25 missed tackles for Penrith. When do you ever see Penrith not doing that well in so early in the year? So there's a lot of pressure on them. Missing Luai and Fisher Harris. Yeah, it's really coming back to bite them, isn't it? But there's something else that's missing. I think it's that new player that's come over, and they just haven't got Cleary and him have not got a combination going. But anyway, just looking at the most tackles, Yayo, another work animal, including Jeremy Marshall King. Looking at most run meters, Tabuai Fado, 256. Dylan Edwards, 249. Most line breaks, 2 from Jake Averillo. He had a big game. I usually have him in there. So we missed out on we picked the winner, but we did not. We just failed to pick up any money from our anytime try scorer there. So I won't let you down again, Jake. I'll be putting you in there next time in the multiples. So let's get to the next game. That was a surprise for some, not a surprise for me. The next game on the Friday was Gold Coast Titans, who got whacked by a very powerful St George side, 38-16. Christian Tuipulotu went over twice. Kyle Flanagan killed me. I had him with Cookie as my anytime try scorer the week previously, and I said to you, the one thing I don't want to happen is Kyle Flanagan to go over at $3.75. So that really Rectus for our anytime try scorer. Of course, we had Tuipulotu, but we were looking for value, but we didn't get Brian Kelly, Sami, and AJ Brimson. I swapped him out for another one, so he just missed out there. But just looking at the stats anyway, there was a sin bin of Brock Gray to Coach Hasler's disappointment. And just looking here, at half time, it was already pretty much in the bag at 24-4. And then possession 47% to Gold Coast. If you can't hold the ball, Gold Coast, you're going to lose. And 53% possession to St George. All runs, 211. They're all over the park for St George, 164 Gold Coast. 2008 all-run meters for St George. They were running them ragged. 1604 for the Gold Coast. Kicking meters, wow, 537 for the Gold Coast and 379 to St George. That's an interesting stat. Missed tackles, 33 to Gold Coast, but 36 to St George. Obviously, St George made a lot more running in the game, and the defence just wasn't there for Titans. They haven't showed up for a couple of weeks now, and their season is in quite a bit of doubt at the moment. Most tackles, Dylan Egan, who went over for his debut try. A good kid coming through the ranks there. Chris Randall, 41. That's no surprise. Most run meters is no surprise. Tuipulotu and David Fafita. He's an absolute animal for the Titans. It's a shame that some of his other forwards aren't backing them up. Desi's switching with Beau Fermor and Valentine Holmes just run right over him by doing that. And so Desi needs to really do something else there. Line breaks to Terrell Sloan. He's playing really good on the wing, providing he gets the ball in open space. But he still has got that amazing acceleration. And it was one break to Brian Kelly, who ended up being a try. So no surprise there to see St George really going with it, but it was good to see them going with it because they've thrown a couple of games after leading by 12 points this year. So Coach Flanagan, and I do apologise for calling his son Flaherty, but I'll be calling him more than Flaherty. I was calling him more than Flaherty after the game, I tell you, when he scored. The next game was the Broncos versus the Roosters. This was the surprise one for many people. Roosters really bounced back. They've got a pretty good record up there against the Broncos, but going on form, if a man put a proverbial gun to your head, you definitely would have tipped the Broncos over the Roosters. But Billy Smith has come back from so many injuries. He had a blinder. He went over twice, and I did tell you to put him in your combinations here. Reece Walsh, that destroyed me. A week or two ago, we stood you out as the banker, Reece Walsh, and as soon as I let him go, he went over. The worst to come was Nat Butcher. Nat Butcher going over was as bad as Sandon Smith the previous week when we stood out Sandon Smith 2 weeks ago. But Nat Butcher, that really crushed me because you're about 7-1. Great value. Crichton went over. Angus Crichton in the 37th minute. Jesse Arthurs, well, he was up and down with one of our bankers with Selwyn Cobbo, but Billy Smith was the one who got our bickies there. So we got that one, but we could have really got a lot more value with Nat Butcher at 7-1. That destroyed me when he went over. Let's have a look at the halftime score. It was 12 Broncos, 20 Roosters. They were hanging in there, the Broncos. And although it looked like Roosters never really diminished the lead there, it was a struggle for the Broncos. The possession rate wasn't great, and they had the ball a lot, the Roosters. And when they got the ball a lot, they're dangerous. Possession 53%, Roosters over 47 for Broncos. Let's have a look at all the all-run meters. Was 1:15:36, 1:5:05 for Broncos, fairly even there. The kicks 20 the Roosters. A much better kicking game from the new kid on the block, and 16 for Broncos. So a very good kicking game that made Broncos work a lot harder. Tackles made. This is the one that destroyed the Broncos. 348. If you can't hold the ball and you haven't got possession, well, this is the stat that will kill you. Only 299 made for Roosters. So those fresh as daisies bouncing around on the oval there. Missed tackles, 26 to Broncos, 24 to Roosters, fairly even. However, that tackles made is going to drain your petrol tank very, very quickly, as we know, as human beings. No matter how fit you are, if you're going to do that many tackles on a rugby league oval or field, you're going to get gassed. Most tackles, Jaden Hunt for the Broncos, 36. That's surprising. Su'a Wong, I had a bit of a rap on him, 32. Most run meters, Teddy Tedesco. Well, here's one for Scotty Pearce-McLeod. He's not done and dusted yet, brother. You keep on calling him in the grandmother class while he's putting egg all over your face. What do you say about that? 224 metres, phenomenal. Selwyn Copper, 167. Line breaks, Teddy, 1. Katoni Staggs, 1. Staggs was very quiet in that first half, and I was disappointed because we had him as one of our multiple legs. And looking at the try scorers there, we got the Billy Smith one, but we had really just got a little bit more than our money back on what we made on the game. So let's move to the next match. But congratulations, Roosters. You're back in the hunt and playing out of your skin. So it's good to see Coach Robinson. Go to the next match now, and it was that day match between Cronulla and the Seagulls. These were the two Perth games in Optus Stadium. And this game was interesting. I watched the extended highlights again last night. Samuel Stone Street played out of his skin, and a great little kicking game from Tricky Trindle to set those tries up. William Kennedy, if anyone saw that disallowed try, talk about freakish ability. And he was dancing on a dime, I tell you, and doing little swivels. And he reminded me of a tall Benji Marshall, the way he had the defence in 6s and 7s. But the second try was allowed, so it was a fantastic try from him. And I know Peter Connors has got a big rap on him. A big shout out to Steve Lamb, who's joined us there, and hopefully he'll join us in the studio when he comes up from the coast. So a big shout out to you, mate. Canberra's flying at the moment, and we'll get to that game shortly. But the match summary, Clayton Falalo went over. His first try was disallowed when he planted the ball down on the touchline in goal. Luke Brooks, the mad intercept, and the second intercept, which ended up in Cherry Evans' hands, certainly brought them back into the match. But the match was pretty much forlorn by then. Ruben Garrick played fairly well. Nicholas Hines, I must admit, everyone's been doing a lot of crap on him recently, but he had one of his better games. Still, Kennedy was my man of the match with that one. Let's go over what have Manly got to do. You got to just hope that Turbo gets back there ASAP, because they haven't done too well since his injury. And just looking here at the missed tackles made, kicking meters, it's all fairly even right across the park. Possession, well, Cronulla had the far greater possession, 52% over Manly. And the kicking meters, a much better kicking game from the Sharks. Most tackles, Blake Brayley, well, he is a little work animal out of dummy half there. Jake Simpkin, another work animal. Jesse Roman, most run meters. I did put him into one of our parlays, but he didn't collect. Lehigh Hapawati, 196. The most line breaks, Kennedy, 1. And Clayton Falalo, 2. So congratulations to Sharks. in beating Manly over in Perth. The next game that was tough to watch, South never gave in, and they never do. It was 16 South, 24 the victors with the Cowboys, and Murray Talagi went over for that first try. It was 4 tries to 3, so the game was fairly even. Ewan Aiken in his new colours went over the first try for South. Jai Arrow, it was really good to see you score, buddy. And he played a big role at that stage. Jai Gray goes over at least once or twice every 3 matches. So he's one that you can always have as a banker. Jackson Purdue, I warned you about this guy. He scored 2 great tries. One that he just had everyone going, what's he doing here? A little bit like a Luai try. And Jackson Purdue, I've had a big rap on him for a long time. Well, he picked up the bacon for us into Jai Gray. So thank you, Jackson Purdue. You've been very good to us over the last couple of weeks. Hopefully you've been following us here on ePaw and you got the bickies. And if you haven't, we did so well this week, especially in the Canberra game, because Canberra have been getting all their regular try scorers going over, and we've been waiting in the bookies line. Pay round the back, pay round the back. Scott Drinkwater just missed out going over himself at halftime or 6-4. There was nothing in this game, and I was hoping and praying. But then when Pepe gave in the last 10 minutes, when Pepe got sent into the sin bin, and it was really, really heartbreaking because Cowboys end up kicking that penalty goal that made it 8 points the difference, and South just couldn't regain consciousness. Possession 53%. That was the difficult thing for South, not holding the ball. 53%. I thought the old Canberra player played very well defence-wise. 53% there, over 47% for South. So that's the difference. Or the all-run meters, they ran them ragged there, the Cowboys. Kicks, 22-20. Nothing much in that. Kicking meters, a pretty good kicking game for South. Didn't bring home the bacon though. Tackles made. Ooh, this is a decisive thing here. Yet again, another stat that always stands out, like dogs' sacks. Let us just say that instead of balls. But 364 tackles made for South, that's going to gas you. 328 for Cowboys. Missed tackles, only 17 for Cowboys, 28 for South. That's where the game was won and lost. Reuben Cotter, another work animal coming back from injury or off the bench, 42. He's an absolute dog. And Peter Malmazelas, 46, another work animal. Jason Tomalolo, most run meters, 205. That's surprising for the big fella. He's still playing well at this age. Fantastic. 237 for Jai Gray. That's no surprise either. 2 breaks to Jackson Purdue. Come in spinner. Easy money there in the South and Cowboys. Even though we tipped South, that hurt us on the tipping competition. We've moved back to equal second now, with PC chasing SPM on the Monster Tipping Cup. So that hurt me, that game, because the other boys did tip Cowboys. But I told you that it's such a close game, it's going to go either way, 1-12. So you margin players, hopefully you collected the bickies as well. The next game was, this was the one up in, was it up in, Stadium Darwin, wow. And I was so surprised that they acclimatised so well, the Canberra Raiders. Joseph Tarpany, well, he was our banker. We had Hudson Young, who's always in our multiples. The one that killed me a little bit, because we would have got 5 or 6 collect tickets, was Matthew Timoko. I've had Timoko the last 3 or 4 weeks tipping Canberra, but Hudson Young went over again. Xavier Savage, well, he was too skinny to have. He was only like $1, got $1.50 or something, and even worse. Matty Nicholson, we did entertain him during the preview, but Sebastian Chris went over again very late in the piece in the 77th minute. So there you go. Sebastian Chris got us about 3 or 4 winning tickets there, and that really put us in front for the weekend, put us on a really good note for the weekend. So just looking at some of the stats here, at halftime, the game was pretty much sewn up at halftime. 24, Canberra over Parramatta 6. And just looking at the try scores, this is where the money was made. Dylan Brown, I told you, I had a gut feeling over the last 2 weeks, but particularly on our preview program on Thursday, Dylan Brown will go over. We're going to use him in as a one of these second or third stringers. And Josh Adokar, well, he's an easy try-in, but he's no value. But the value is Dylan Brown into Tarpany, Dylan Brown into Hudson Young, Dylan Brown into Sebastian Chris. Come in, spinner. More money for you, Scotty. I hope you got all your money you won off the Cowboys again and backed a lot of the EPAWS tips. Because if you didn't, I'm coming down the South Coast and I'm going to catch up to you and find out why you didn't. No, I know you're switching jobs at the moment, so it's difficult to get time to put these bets on. But hopefully you've made money from that game, because we pretty much collected within the first 15 minutes of the game with at least one double, and then the second double came up in the 23rd. Timoko was the killer. Hudson Young at 57. They were all great collects, and we had to wait for the 77th minute to get our 5th ticket. What a great collect that was on the Parramatta Canberra game. 50-12 it ended up being. And just looking at some of the vital stats, possession, 56% to Canberra and only 44 to Parramatta. Still ironing out problems. And the all runs, 201, though, just running right, Canberra, over 136 for Parramatta. All run metres, they ran them rugged. Virtually another 700 metres they ran Canberra. Kicks, similar, 22-19 to Canberra. Kicking metres, a very good kicking game with Jamal Fogarty. Kicking metres, 598 to Canberra. Tackles made, here we go. Get your paper and pen out. 362 Parramatta, gassed. Nearly 100 less for Canberra, 250. But this is the worst one. Add this to your tackles made. Parramatta 45 missed tackles, Canberra 21. They were a class apart, and the score showed it. 50-12. Kalongi Katoga, 42, most tackles. What a work animal. Tom Starling, he's a dog, 37, amazing. I don't know, there'd be a whole lot of Canberra Parramatta players that would have been up there with Katoga, but geez, most run metres, 216. Corey Horsburgh, geez, didn't he have another blinder? I thought he was going to score at one stage, and he went over backwards and tried to put it over the line. They held him up on his back. What an animal he is when he's on song, the big redhead. Most line breaks, Josh Adokar and Savita Tamale for Canberra. But that was the stats tell it all. Let's move to the next match. I don't know what Parramatta I'm going to do. It's just a learning curve for them this year. Just do what you can. But it was good to see Dylan Brown finally show a bit of form, especially with those big biggies that Newcastle's played for him. And we'll get to the hapless Newcastle Knights at the moment. Their season is in dire straits. The next game was back at Amy Park Stadium, and it was 42 Storm over Warriors 14. Started off all right. Looked like it was going to be a close match, but within 15 minutes, the game was destroyed by Melbourne, and Xavier Coates went over in the second, and then Josh King 14, Sean Bloor 20. All around the 20-minute mark, they just destroyed him. 23rd minute, Trent Liero, Harry Grant 27th, there was one at half time, virtually. Grant Anderson, 30 minutes, and then they didn't score till Xavier Coates later on in the 58th in the second half. Halasima, he's one that you really need to put in. Although he comes off the bench, he's a crazy anytime try scorer value, man, if you want him. Berry, I had Berry, but the funniest thing was with this one, I needed Luke Metcalf, the multi that I had outside of the usual tips we have. I had Luke Metcalf to score 6 points. Now, I just thought, well, this $10 ticket's gone. And because I had 13 plus, of course, to Melbourne, and I had the overs and unders correct as well. And then the third leg was Luke Metcalf having to score 6 points. He missed his second goal, and I'm praying that they go over again. And I'm thinking, well, now he's got to score. He waited to the 79th minute for us to pick up a nice $46 for our 10. $4.60 or 9 to 2 we picked up with Luke Metcalf scoring in the dying seconds. Thank you, Luke. And hopefully you guys collected as well, because there were so many try scorers that you could have linked up with Luke Metcalf. A lot of them were Harry Grant, Coates. We had them all. So it was a good collect for us. But that was our main hope, that Luke Metcalf went over. And sometimes the punting gods are smiling on you. What a great weekend so far. Just looking at some of the key stats there. Possession, 53%. That sort of evened itself out. It was way different in the first half, in that 20-minute mark. 47 to Warriors. All runs pretty high for Melbourne, of course. 1,714 all runs meters. Warriors couldn't hold the ball, 1551. Kicks, very good kicking game there with Melbourne, 20 to 15. And Jerome Hughes. Kicking meters, 622. That's massive. And only 364 with Warriors are really lacking that kicking game, that side of their game. Tackles made, 365. Here we go again. Here we go. Come in spinner. Only 311 for Melbourne. Fresh as a daisy. They took their foot off the accelerator just a tad in the second half. Warriors were starting to bounce back a little bit, but the game was won at half time. Missed tackles, 29. Surprisingly, it balanced out with 29 to Warriors and 31 to Melbourne. Most tackles yet again, Harry Grant, you work animal, 36, but you didn't have to do as much as Warriors did. Wade Egan is a beast, 46. Most run meters, Xavier Coates, of course, 230. Mitchell Barnett, surprisingly, was the most run meters for the Warriors, 144. 3 line breaks for Xavier Coates, no surprise. Ali Leotoa, we had you as a banker. If that's over in the other part of the world, over in your home country, I think you always seem to play better in front of your home crowd. And let's go to the next game now. And that was the last game, and then we'll wrap it up for this episode 12. It's a game that, as I said, it was always going to break my heart, being an old West Tigers fan, and my Knights are my boys, though. And I didn't realise that we were so lacklustre going into the game. We had so many injuries, apart from Dylan Lucas and Elliott, were lacking forward with firepower. But I still really thought we'd be in there. But I don't know. I heard the radio call, and I must have counted Greg Marju probably spilling the ball on the 0 to 1 to first tackle, maybe close to 4 or 5 times in their own red zones. You will not win doing that. This is a game that, for mine, they really had to win, or they really had to stand up. But it was a full strength Tigers side. But up there, you've got your home ground supporters. I would have been. I'm sorry, but on that performance, I can't fully back this up, but I would have just to myself been booing a little bit at that performance for Knights. Not of their young players, but their older players. They couldn't hold the ball. You have to hold the ball, guys. Ball security. Marju, I'm telling you, brother, I would have ripped you off. I'm sorry, but if I was the coach, Adam, I would have ripped you off. But they couldn't. Of course, they couldn't afford to. But that was a disgraceful effort. He's gone back to his old game. When he's in form, he's a lethal winger and doesn't drop balls. But crikey's, mate, knock on a zero tackle. I don't know how many times we counted it. I think the older players need to stand up as well and be cannoned for that because they did not pull their finger out. It was hard to watch, but I'm very very happy for the West Tigers. We did have Stafford Tower into Fletcher Sharp. Fletcher Sharp scored in the dying seconds, a bit like Metcalf, so he saved our bacon there, and we had a good go at Fletcher Sharp. And I think he was pretty much close, nearly 4-1. So we did pretty well there. But of course, it's all right getting money back, but when you're heartbroken, it was very, very difficult afternoon. But we did stand out Stafford Tower and Sunia Taruba as we tipped them last Thursday. Adam Dewey had a pretty good game. And of course, he crossed over, so Scotty would have been very, very happy. At halftime, it was 14-0, and basically Newcastle never come up for air. It was one of their worst performances of the last 3 years. I've been following Newcastle, and unless they get Dylan Lucas back and go back to the basics, I really feel sorry for those young players. They were put into positions that they really didn't need to be in, and you got to tease them, you've got to put them out there in first grade, but against a hot Tigers side, it's a miracle with their online defence stopping West Tigers. It's a miracle that just didn't fall apart in the second half, and that they went on with another 3 or 4 tries because Tigers were just always on top in that game. And hang your head low, Newcastle. Get back to the drawing board. I don't know how you're going to win the next match. I know it's at home, but we'll talk about that on Thursday. Thanks for joining us today. Please like and subscribe, because if you don't, what happens in the algorithm? Comment, like, subscribe, share. Big shout out, as I said, to who's just joined us on board here, Steve Lammy. Hopefully, because Canberra's going so well, we'll get him on the program and get him on for maybe a Thursday review when he's not working, but that's hard these days. We might get him on for a post review and talk about his favourite legendary team, the Canberra Raiders, who are right up the top of the comp at the moment with Canterbury. And let's have a look at the ladder whilst we're here. Where is the ladder? Let's go to home. Is the ladder? Here we go. Bulldogs in front on 12 points. Storm 10. Broncos 8. Raiders 8. So basically equal third. Just a little bit less than Broncos on the for and against. Rabbitohs 8. Warriors 8. West Tigers 6. Congratulations. And so far, his prediction, Phil Gould, is correct that they're in the top 8. Sea Eagles 6, Sharks 6, Dragons 6, Titans 6, Knights 6, Cowboys 6, Dolphins 4, Roosters 4. They'll pick up a few more games after that victory. Panthers 2 and Eels 2. A miracle that Panthers aren't stone motherless last. But as I said, hit like. If you don't like it, at least comment, and we'll get back to you ASAP. Thanks for joining us today on Every Point's a Winner, or EPOR, and join us on Thursday for more of our tips. We made a good money spinner And hopefully you followed our tips this week. And although we didn't tip all the winners, I gave you many of the anytime try scorers and the multis. So there was money to be made all over the park there with at least 6 out of the 8 games. So thank you very much for joining us, and we'll see you on Thursday. Axel fellas from Every Point's a Winner. Like, subscribe. It's not going to cost you anything. And join us as soon as you can. Share it and comment. Bye for now.